it was the crucifix that actually began my entire journey into the Carmelite monastery. This was back in 2014, and I was listening to Gregorian chant on YouTube, and a little related video came up on the side, you know how they do, and it said Carmelite Monastery, Quidnunum, and the picture that was there was this really beautiful dark brown wooden crucifix with trees behind it. And I thought, well, that must be in their garden. And as soon as I looked at that and I saw that, there was this very, very strong interior jump, almost like, oh, okay, take notice of this, really take notice. At that time, I wasn't in the church. I really had no knowledge, to be honest, of the Passion. Obviously, I was playing the organ at a local church, but I wasn't part of a community. I hadn't read the Gospels. All of that was actually quite alien to me. But God wasn't, in that I'd always prayed, but I just didn't use Christian terminology. So it might sound like a bit of a mishmash, but it really was quite like that. But I looked at this crucifix and I thought, okay, well, I know that that is Jesus. But what is it? What does it mean? What is this reaction? And it went from just looking through YouTube, having a cup of tea with my dad, to, okay, I need to go to this monastery. So out of the blue, there was an incredibly strong call. I knew through church music about Gregorian chant and that nuns and monks existed and their worlds were in beautiful abbeys, but I didn't really know what was going on inside. Why were they there? But for me, this pull just became stronger and stronger, to the point where every crucifix that I saw, whether it was a small one, whether it was a big one on TV, or a church crucifix, or pictures or art, I would just have incredible pangs of sadness and crying and confusion and what is this pull? It was the most euphoric feeling, at the same time as being, what am I looking at here? You know, not coming from a Christian background and not really understanding the Passion, the Crown of Thorns, at all, to suddenly feeling like you'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. And it was such almost like Jesus on the crucifix was talking to my cells. That's the only way I can explain it. And when I went to see the prioress of the Carmelite monastery, you know, I told her exactly what was happening. I spoke to the novice mistress and they were just like, interesting. And I thought, okay, I need to know more about this. Is this a normal reaction? You know, are people just looking at Jesus on the cross in this way? And, you know, what is it? Because with it not being familiar to me, this world, you know, Christianity and people always, you know, when I've read since, people talk about the saints and mystical prayer and all these topics that I had to get into later. But the crucifix has always been a very strong anchoring point for the faith, which I did learn. So I was having all these reactions without having the, if you like, the understanding, the context of what I was going through. So it was incredibly tough, actually, to think, is the God I've been praying to since I was about 15, 16, and journaling, having my solitude, but not having the Christian terminology. So I would say it's a divine, it's a creator. I never really said God. To coming up to Christ in the most harrowing circumstance on the cross and feeling, I know him, I know who this is, and joining the dots of this Lord is the voice that I've been hearing since I was young. And that joining, and that's the only way I can explain it. So when I was looking at the cross like that, I was feeling, I know who he is. And people say, and you know, nuns have said since then, it is like falling in love. So the confusion, the panic, the nausea, the what on earth is happening to me, giddy, it's funny, it's funny, but it's not funny. Obviously, I take my relationship with God very seriously, but also I think I can laugh at myself, and we know that Lord has a hilarious sense of humor. But it was very much those feelings, and what then, looking at him like that, what is that? And as I spoke more with the nuns, I was able to say, it feels as if he is asking me to work for him, to be with him. It's incredibly strong, and it stayed with me since 2014. I have a crucifix now, which I bought before I entered the monastery, and still now, when I see the cross, which is not very easy to look at, it's really not, the Passion, I was feeling, yes, it's not pleasant to look at, but also wow, because I think what I was feeling in this initial gut feeling, in this reaction, was it's the greatest love. So I remember saying to my novice mistress at the time, I don't like to look at blood and the Passion like that. I'm squeamish in real life, and so anything I'm like, no, I can't. But the crown of thorns and the Passion depicted like that is, for me, wow, because what Jesus is doing there, and the coming resurrection. So that was my my initial spark to go on the path to get to know Jesus more, to really read the Bible, because I hadn't come from that background. So when I was reading the gospel, and the prioress said, okay, let's look at various passages, and we were going through, and this is way before I even decided to go into the monastery. She just said, we need to get you familiar with the texts. And I was diving straight in, writing out the Psalms every weekend with a quill pen. I was so determined, and trying to be an old scribe, and really the romantic notions. And she said, how are you getting on? And I said, I know this voice. I know the voice of Jesus jumping out the gospel. And she said, well, he's been talking to you your entire life. I just didn't know. It's so strange. And I can't believe it, in a way, that God was joining all the dots for me. And still now a crucifix is, if I say, wondrous to see. It's those two together, very, very difficult, but so beautiful because of what it actually means and what is coming. And so I learned, being a postulant with the nuns was being crucified with Christ, and the journey of the Christian path into the heart is we are on the cross. So I think there were just a multitude of emotions coming up, seeing the cross, thinking I do love God, and I knew that I did, but I just wasn't saying the word Jesus. Now, of course, all that's very familiar, and it's been several years. It's actually 10 years next year. Wow, just hearing myself say that. It's 10 years next year, so 2014 to 2024. I've been on this journey. Incredibly excited to share the incredible joy of the importance of prayer and digging into ourselves and being able to share the Christian path. It is luminous, and I feel so joyful at how we grow and how we learn and how we do have those moments of discovery. I'm sure everybody's seeing this. We can relate. We've all got our first moment. What was our first joy with God? What's a moment that stands out in the gospel that makes us jump? I think I'm trying to recall some now as I'm saying this. The delight of Jesus being able to say follow, the joy, and what does that mean? Come and find out. come and see, come and dig. And so I feel very blessed to have had what was a very striking, difficult moment. And my dad's sitting there with his tea going, "Are you really going into the convent?" I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what nuns did. I mean, I knew that there was prayer involved, but it was like leaping off a cliff. But I knew I could do it, because looking at Jesus on the cross and seeing the face and seeing that, it was almost as if he was saying to me, I need you to carry me, because it's so I don't have words, but if Jesus is able to come into us and live here, then we are dwelling with him, and then we put that out into the world. We shine that light. So I felt as if he was asking me to hold on to him on that cross and have resurrections within myself as a growing spiritual person, and put that out and inspire others to really dwell together. And I think that's what the strong love was, most definitely. This overwhelming, beautifully anchoring feeling of I have to work for the Lord, and I've not wanted to stop since I saw the crucifix like that. And I think it made a profound impact. I don't think words can ever measure up to that, to the feeling, and underneath the emotion, I think when people say I was born to do something, or something speaks to you very directly and it changes your life, and that moment changed my entire life. I'm not the same person, and we're supposed to grow. We're not supposed to stay in the same space. Like I said, there was 10 years, and now it's I'm like, what's next, Lord? And where are we going? And that beautiful journey where you're there together, and it's I'm just so excited about what he's doing, and how it feels magical, and my role, I see my role when I was leaving the convent. My role was very clear. Jesus instructed me again from a crucifix. It was beautiful. The crucifix began it, and the crucifix ended, and I didn't know that was coming. I had this beautiful prayer session where the crucifix, Christ on the cross, appeared, and he said, we're going to go back out into the world. And I knew that. I'd spoken to the sisters. I was leaving, and he said, but I'm coming with you. Take me with you. And I shared this with the senior sisters, and they said, yeah, you've done what you're supposed to do in Carmel. You won't be a consecrated nun. He needs you in the world to share your story, and to talk, and hopefully, please God, inspire others to look at their journey and not be afraid, and whatever feelings are coming up, like we were joking earlier, the frustration mixed with the wonder, mixed with the passion, mixed with the joy, and the difficult times, all of that is part of our walk, our journey. Definitely.